welcome. Are you ready to start writing? Let's get right to it.
He's attractive, charming, and with a wide range of interests and hobbies. But for some reason, you're just not that into him. Why? How can you make a protagonist someone readers will want to know? How can you build a character they want to read about? In this video, we will tackle the issue of boring, flat characters and motivate you to make Mr. Blah into Mr. I want to know you better. So, a random guy sets off on a journey. It could be a journey to find strange new lands, or perhaps friends, or maybe it's a journey of self discovery. What does he want? He sets off from his home, perhaps a small village, heading for the city where anything could happen. But something has to push him out of the door. Usually, we would call that an inciting incident. Something happens to set him on a different path. It could be something wonderful and exciting, like new opportunities, or it could be something awful, like a family tragedy. But for our readers to be interested, he has to be less random and more specific. We are all struggling to achieve something. Some people just want to get an education and a job, and it's a struggle to achieve this goal because of their circumstances. But maybe our protagonist is also ambitious. He wants success and love. A character might be driven by a need for power if he comes from a vulnerable situation, or he could be a prisoner craving freedom. He could thirst for revenge after witnessing terrible crimes, or want justice for his family. But the goal is at the heart of your character's story and defines his motivations. Let's think about motivations. A character's motivation can be simple or more complex. Think of these two examples. Joe wants to be a lawyer because he respects education. So your character is at college because he thinks it's useful to have a degree for a good standard in life. And this could be a simple family story. On the other hand, Joe's motivation could be more driven. He wants to bring down criminals who destroyed his father and sees this as the best way to achieve his goal. Which one do you think would be more interesting? Unfortunately, there are obstacles to a character achieving his goals, and this conflict is necessary in any story. Again, we have two examples. An obstacle might be Joe's financial needs. He has to work at a part time job and has no time for socializing. He's stressed and lonely. But stakes could be higher if Joe's sister is kidnapped by the very people he wants to destroy. They threaten him, saying he needs to join them and abandon any idea of retribution. Think of obstacles that would challenge your protagonist and cause conflicts. The protagonist is faced with external and internal conflicts. For example, he might be mugged and have his phone stolen. Perhaps his mother is ill and he can't afford to pay medical bills. He could be disappointed and let down by friends who don't support him. And his professors could be critical of his work, maybe targeting him unfairly and failing his assignments. Internally, he could face temptations to be seduced by fame, wealth, and gorgeous girls. He could feel frustrated, lonely, angry, and deal with issues of low self esteem. He wants to get out of a bad situation, but can't figure it out and constantly blames himself. When he is at his lowest point, your protagonist needs to meet up with a mentor, a wise, older, experienced character who can offer special skills, advice, or teaching of some kind. Think of the Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi. There's a reason why the story was so popular. The boy moves to a new neighborhood, has no friends or money, and is bullied. At his lowest moment, Mr. Miyagi appears. In the story of Cinderella, when she is distraught and weeping, her godmother appears. In the fairy tale, she creates magical dress and coach, but in a realistic story, the mentor can provide things the protagonist needs, as well as encouragement and wisdom. Even Kung Fu Panda needed Oogway. But why do we want the protagonist to succeed? What is it about the Karate Kid, Kung Fu Panda, or even Cinderella that we like and want them to win? We notice that they are kind to others, maybe family, pets, or vulnerable people. They are funny and sweet in some way and have good hearts. We can see their loyalty to others and their willingness to work hard. They have engaged our sympathies, and we feel that we are part of their story. We have also felt rejected, bullied, or second best at one time or another, so we want this protagonist to have something good in his life. In your story, your reader will see the character grow. It doesn't have to mean an actual change of age, from boyhood to teen to adult, but the character changes. What causes this? We see him suffering abuse, injustice, or violence, and he makes choices. These lead to difficult challenges, and in the end, he emerges stronger, more resilient, more capable of managing his environment. He might start out lost and unsure, but he builds confidence. He has learned new skills, made new connections, and will achieve success. During the story, your character's goals will change. So at first, he may feel very basic drives for revenge and to change his situation in life. He may crave connection and want an unattainable girl who treats him badly. But then, as he progresses through changes and suffers setbacks, he learns who he can depend on. His goals change to something more long-term, perhaps developing his education, more stable relationships, and defeating enemies in a way that is satisfying to readers. The reader progresses with your character. If the protagonist does not learn from his mistakes, if he stays in the same place, he stagnates and the story becomes boring. The character loses interest. He's not doing anything. We need to see him face uncertainties, take risks, and forge ahead. In the story Point Break, the new FBI agent could have been content to follow the bank robbers and investigate according to normal procedures. But he takes a big risk in learning to surf and becoming one of the gang, and the story becomes more challenging and interesting. The great escape artist, Harry Houdini, knew that to keep audiences entertained, he had to keep coming up with outrageous stunts and risky challenges. He liked to keep people guessing and was the ultimate showman. Your story needs to take a few surprising twists. Maybe your character doesn't fall for the usual glamorous model, but finds a cheeky book nerd who keeps him on his toes. He might go on a sudden high-speed chase on a horse or bicycle instead of a car, or break into a mansion guarded by Rottweilers. Give him some unusual sayings and make decisions that the reader will not expect. Try to avoid your character becoming a stereotype, the handsome Prince Charming who rescues the damsel in distress, the wicked playboy or tormented pop star. Even the nice guy must have a few negative traits. Think of men you know from family or past relationships or work colleagues, and think of behavior and motivation. Build a complex character who has a background, secrets, and desires that can be good and bad. It can help to refresh our idea of male protagonists by looking at popular books and movies. Heathcliff in Wuthering Heights is the dark, tormented figure who was brought to a family home as an orphan. David Copperfield is loosely based on Dickens' life, and the story is a gripping narrative of the child's development into manhood. James Bond and Jack Sparrow share daring traits and exploits, and The Company of the Ring exemplifies courage and loyalty in a fantasy epic. Prince Caspian's life is threatened, and he must depend on the wisdom of his mentor. Jay Gatsby and Rhett Butler are overwhelmed by the compulsion to gain wealth and status, believing that this will ensure they have the woman of their dreams. Sydney Carton, in A Tale of Two Cities, is the best friend anyone could wish for. And Jim Hawkins sets off to Treasure Island as a boy, but returns as a man just because of everything he has seen and survived. So, in your task, we are going to take a character and transform his life. The PDF will be available to download so that you can work with it in a print format if you choose. The link will be in the description below. We start off with a character who is unattractive to those around him. He is poor, neglected by family, and abused by peers. He would like understanding, recognition, acceptance, and status of some kind. He thinks his life will improve when a group of popular kids befriend him, telling him they admire his skills. And these could be football, tech skills, school projects, etc. Then they are caught shoplifting and they blame him. With no one to stand up for him, he's sent away to a reform school where he is beaten and suffers further. He thinks he will never survive, but something gives him hope. He has a teacher who keeps giving him books. He studies hard, learns, and earns the respect of those around him for standing up for himself. His teacher becomes his mentor, giving him advice for life and caring for him more than anyone has so far. He also sees a girl and begins to write letters to her. She writes back. He falls in love. And eventually he becomes a successful businessman, marries the girl, and one day he returns to his village and sees how small it actually is, and that those kids who tormented him have gone nowhere in life and remained hanging on to their old ways. Add to your story and create a name for your character and think of ways that you can describe him that will attract your reader and draw them into your story. If you would like more writing tips and advice, you can follow my Substack blog, or you can find me on Patreon for conversation, dialogue, and English language. And then look on Facebook and Instagram for updates. Take a look at my books on Amazon. They are available as ebooks or paperback. Thank you.